So you finally start doing the work. Therapy, setting up boundaries, doing everything to care about yourself and finally accept yourself. But then it creeps in. That sick guilt asking you, who do you think you are? What are you even trying to do? Assalamu alaikum everybody. I hope you're doing amazing. If you're new here, hi, my name's Nida and I help people get into their self-love, self-development journey through sharing my experiences, my writings and everything in between. So let's get started. Healing guilt is the dirtiest secret of recovery. And no one really talks about how terrifying it is to finally let go of that pain, to finally outgrow that pain. But today we are going to drag it into light. Today we are going to see how to finally overcome all the guilt and all the shame once you step into your healing journey. But before we begin to finally see all the lies and all the myths that our brain tells us before we start healing, is to understand why it actually happens, why our brain hijacks our healing journeys. So your brain is wired to resist change, even if it is good change. And as soon as we start to change, as soon as we start to let go of our old patterns, our brain thinks, wait, that is dangerous, that is unfamiliar, and so it starts to weaponize that guilt to bring you back to normal, which is suffering. In fact, a study of 2022 found out that guilt activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. So your brain literally treats growth as a threat. And it is just trying to do its job, really. It is just trying to protect you. But sometimes we need to take our time to rewire our brain before we actually begin our journeys. Now let us look into the 5 lies that healing guilt tells you when you finally start to heal. Lie number 1 is healing erases your past, which is not true, not at all. Healing does not erase your story, it lets you own it. It lets you have authority over your own story and how you write it. Which means if you stop feeling bad because of a broken friendship, it does not mean that you did not value that friendship. I mean, after a certain time, we need to keep all of this pain and all of this trauma aside to finally embrace the person that we are becoming. And it is not possible if you keep on thinking that you deserve a punishment for the situation. Lie number 2, if I suffer longer, I finally earn forgiveness. Which is not true. If I just suffer for 5 more years, if I just suffer for 5 more months, maybe then I will be deserving of peace. Well, the people who actually matter already forgive you. So the only one holding you back, the only one who's beating you up is yourself. How long are you going to keep yourself in that state where you and everybody else around you is being affected just because you cannot forgive yourself? If you want to learn how to forgive yourself in a very simple way, I've uploaded the video about the same. You can check that video out. I'll link it in the description box. Lie number 3, joy and happiness is for people who never mess up. This is such a bad and negative thinking. It affects you on so many levels I cannot even explain. Just because you messed up a job, just because you messed up a friendship does not mean that you are supposed to suffer for the rest of your life. Let me tell you something. Your mistakes are supposed to be lessons, not life sentences. Stop holding yourself back just because you did something wrong. Let go of all the guilt, all the doubt, so that you can finally be free. And something that I've realized is that freedom does not just mean being able to choose what you want to do. Freedom is also not allowing situations, circumstances, and even your feelings from holding you back to become the person that you actually want to be. Lie number 4, and this is something that I actually struggled with myself, which is if I start to heal, if I finally become better, I am abandoning the people who are still stuck, especially the ones who are close to me. And I did have a hard time accepting this. But the truth is that you cannot light yourself on fire just to give them warmth. They have to light their own fires to finally find a way. And sometimes, even though we want to, we cannot fight other people's battle for them. We can support them from afar, we can help with them, and we can comfort them, but we can never fight their battles. The last lie, which is lie number 5, is if I heal, I'll forget the pain. I'll forget how it felt, and I'll walk back right into that situation again. The truth is that once we finally start to heal, once we finally start to embrace our new version, our new personalities, all of these things don't matter that much. Healing helps you trust your gut, trust your inner feelings, your intuition. So if something is off, your gut will literally scream at you from a mile away and be like, No, we're not choosing that. That is not happening because we have seen this before and we know how it ends. So, those were the 5 lies that healing guilt tells us when we finally want to become better. But there's something very important I want to discuss. And even though I always talk about loving your own company and solitude and all of these things, but there's something related to healing guilt in it, which is solitude, and basically a lot of isolation triggers healing guilt, which means that healing guilt can actually get worse if you are too isolated. And why does healing guilt hit hardest when you are alone? It's because silence allows those old voices to creep back in again. That's why it is very possible that you might cancel solo dates, remove or mute affirmations, and binge watch or doom scroll a lot. But it does not mean that you're becoming worse, it's actually a sign of becoming better. But here's the truth. Solitude is also where you can rewire those voices, where you can rewire your brain and finally start to embrace your healing journey. Start by speaking to yourself as you would to a terrified child, because that is exactly who you are talking to. So next time the guilt hits, you need to starve it by first naming the lie. Which one was it? Was it you fearing that you're abandoning your closest people? Or whichever lie it was. Second, thanking yourself to protect you because that is exactly what it is trying to do. And third, rewiring your brain. For example, your guilt might tell you that you are selfish for setting up boundaries. But then you need to tell yourself that I'm actually building healthy love with myself and the people around me by setting up boundaries. Another thing that you can do is to keep a guilt log, which means every time those negative voices or those negative thoughts hit you, you can just add it in that log and finally see the recurring patterns. This will help you recognize in which areas you need to improve and in which areas you need to work towards yourself. I've told you so much about healing guilt now, so if you're ready to take the next steps, comment down below that I am done apologizing for whatever it is, cutting off friends that do not align with me, setting up healthy boundaries, whatever it is. We really need to normalize all of these parts of the healing journey that not a lot of people talk about. That is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful and I hope that you learned something from it. If there's anything that you want me to talk about, you can mention that in the comments and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay safe.